We continue now at the top of Daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph in Meseches Nazir. This is Nazir Daf 27a. And the previous Amud, the Gemara was discussing, let's say a Nazir sets aside money that he's going to use for the karbanos at the end of the term of his Nazirus, and then he dies, so that money is considered unallocated. Since he didn't specify which money is going for which carbon, it's considered to be unallocated funds, and the money can be used as Nedava to the Beis HaMikdash to bring communal karbanos on the Mizbeach. And so the Gemara says that this halach is only true when it comes to money. But let's say, for example, there would be something else that the Nazir would leave over. He wouldn't leave over money, he'd leave over animals or other items. So then we would not have this halacha. Rather, it would be considered like meforeshes. It would be as if the animal was already designated for a particular carbon and can't be switched to a different carbon. And so Rav Shimi bar Ashi, he asked the following question to Rav Papa. He said, we find when it comes to birds, let's say a person is chayiv to bring one bird as an ola and one bird as a chatas. So they are considered to be unspecified. Let's say the person purchases the birds. Now at the time of the purchase, he could designate and say, this bird is for an ola and this bird is for a chatas. But if he doesn't do that, it's considered to be unallocated. It's unspecified. And then later on, when it's brought to the Beis HaMikdash, the Kohen is able to decide which one is for chatas and which one is for an ola. And so therefore, it seems that this halacha by the birds is different than what we find by the animals. And that was the question that Rav Shimi bar Ashi asked Rav Papa. And so the Gemara now says, Amar Le, so Rav Papa said back to Rav Shimi bar Ashi, V'letaimech, according to you, that you're saying this halacha of unallocated funds only applies to money and not other items. Haditzanan, what about that which we learned in the Mishnah later on? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Hevi shalosh behemoth. Let's say a person brings 3 animals, talking about a Nazir. V'lo pirish, and he doesn't specify which animals for which carbon. So we say that we're able to know which animals for which carbon because different carbonas have different characteristics in terms of the animals. For example, a carbanola is only going to be a male, a carbon shlamim could be a female, etc. So we can identify which animals for which carbon. And so that's what the Mishnah says. Haru'iyah lechatas tikrav chatas, la'ola tikrav ola, l'shlamim tikrav shlamim. The animal that's fit for a chatas is brought as a chatas, the one for an ola as an ola, the one for a shlamim as a shlamim. In other words, the animals are considered already designated, even though it wasn't designated, it wasn't specified by the person. So why should that be the case? Ha'amrit behema lav ki meforeshes dami. You're arguing that by a behema, it should not be considered to be meforeshes. Just like you're arguing when it comes to the birds. We see by the birds it's not considered to be meforeshes. And so the Gemara says, Amar Lei said to him, Hasam over there, v'lokach v'yasa amar achmana. The pasuk says, v'lokach v'yasa. In other words, the pasuk by talking about the nests, talking about the bird Karbano says that he takes these birds for himself, he performs the services in the Beis HaMikdash. So, Ibalakichas Bailim, Ibasias Kohen. What that pasuk is telling you is either at the time of the purchase of the Bailim, or at the time that the Kohen is bringing the Karbanos in the Beis HaMikdash, then it's going to be designated. So there's a specific pasuk when it comes to the birds that this is the case. And so the Gemara says, Hachanami, here also. And Rashi explains, Amar Le, Rav Papa said to Rav Shimi bar Ashi, V'letaimech, according to your reasoning, Haditzanan, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer v'chulu, that which the Mishnah says later on, that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that when it comes to animals, they are considered specified, but Leimanami Hasam Techestum and Damu, they're also by animals, we should say, it's considered unspecified. If you're bringing a proof from the case of the birds, where birds are considered to be unspecified, let's extend that to animals also. To Amrit Behema Nascha V'Sor Shel Koros, Lav K'Mefurash and Damu, because that's what you're arguing on the previous that all of these items should be just like money, and they're considered to be unspecified, but we see clearly in the Mishnah later on that by animals they are considered to be specified. And so then the Gemara said, Amar Lei said back to him, Liola mei malach, really what I'll tell you is as follows. De mos velo nascha, mos velo soar. The halach of unspecified applies to money and not to bars of silver. It applies to money and not to beams of wood. V'hada amrit mos velo ofos. And now that which you said by money and not birds, so by birds that's actually not true. We don't say the same thing. Birds are also considered to be unspecified. Hasam lo efshar, there it's impossible to lahavakim ufurashin that it's considered specified. Dochsib, because what does it say in the pasuk by the birds? It says v'lokach v'yasa. It says v'lokach v'yasa. The goli lach rachmana de lo lahavim mefurashin. The Torah is essentially telling you that it's not considered specified. El ibas yas kohen ibalakichas bailim. It can only be specified at the time that the kohen is bringing it as the as a carbon in the Beis HaMikdash, or it can be specified at the time of the purchase when the owner actually purchases the birds. But again, if the owner purchases the birds and doesn't specify, then it's considered to be unspecified. That's learned from the pasuk. And also the question you're asking from animals, you're saying that animals should prove that everything is considered to be specified. There's a specific reason. Hasamnami lo efshar. There also, it's impossible to say the chistum damu that it's considered unspecified. The minkara milsa the chimifurash damu, because it's obvious it's considered specified, as the Gemara will say in the next Amud, because again, by the animals, each kind of animal is only fit for a certain kind of carbon. Again, if it's a carbon-ola, it has to be a male. So it's obvious that the animal that is a male is going to be going le-carbon-ola, etc. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis.